All right, welcome everybody. Today is April 15, 2021. Today is Groundswell's Creating Meaningful Outdoor Experience Using New Exploration Modules. We are so excited to share what we have tonight. We are hoping to learn more about growing environmental education and campus stewardship through these new watershed education exploration modules. And these were created in partnership with the Ottawa Conservation District. Hello, Frank. Good to see you here. So my name is Jessica Vander Ark. I am the Groundswell manager, so feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about Groundswell in general. But we are a coalition of community partners that have been bringing watershed education to West Michigan for the last 10 years. We do this by creating partnerships between community partners and schools. And thank you all, because all a piece of that here today. Tonight, our presenter is going to be Catherine, or Kat Cushway, we short, which I love. Kat is a middle school teacher at Cooper's Middle School, and she's actually been working with Groundswell as a consultant, developing some of these watershed education modules along with the Conservation District, Ottawa Conservation District. So these modules are currently being tested by some of our fabulous Groundswell teachers, and some of them will be here tonight. So we are excited to bring you in and show you what we've been working on. So without any other questions, these modules are designed to help your students get to know what's special about their own place, because that's what we're about, our place, and to follow their interests through exploration and research. And so tonight we will get to discuss ways to personalize these learning experiences and to support your teaching goals. So, you know, the way to get student interest is to capture their interest in their hearts through meaningful learning. So hopefully you will learn about that tonight. So I would like to introduce our presenter, Catherine Cushway. Kat, take it away.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see some familiar faces and new faces as well. So at any point in this presentation, please feel free to use the chat, post questions, post comments, post connections, and we will get to them as we go throughout this session. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And in the chat box in the very beginning, if you scroll all the way up, you will see a link to a participant notebook. So I would just ask that you open that up, because that is what I will be referring to. Thanks, Mara. And what you guys will be doing is you'll be working through that notebook as we go throughout the next hour and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Once it loads, there we go. So as Jessica said, today is all about exploring some new modules that we have created for you to use as a resource in your schools and in your classrooms. So an overview, again, using your chat, the participant notebook is specifically designed to walk you through some of these pieces of modules. You're going to go ahead and use the notebook during this learning session to engage in the material, and also use later as a reference. And then also feel free throughout your notebook, since it does prompt you to make a copy, feel free to include any notes that you want to refer to later. We're going to be focusing on 4 different parts of our agenda tonight: introductions, so we get to know each other a little bit more. We are going to describe what a MeWe is, and resources that have been created for you to utilize as well. We're going to do some putting on our student caps tonight, and we are going to be practicing using some pieces of the modules. And then we also are going to provide some practical tips and have some discussions about what and how we have incorporated MeWes into our classroom and our schools and the possibilities for that. So just a little tidbit before we get started. Throughout the participant notebook, you're going to notice as you go through in the corner of each slide, there is either an apple or a headphone. This is to show you and to help you engage in the notebook. And so every time there's an apple, you're just going to keep your teacher perspective, your teacher hat on, and you're going to look at that activity through a teacher lens. And on the student, when there's a little headphone, you're going to think like one of your students would. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to complete that activity or engage in that activity just as your student would. So think of maybe a student that would actually do the activity and want to engage in the activity, maybe not one of your ones that you have to continue to prompt just for this particular session here. So to get us kicked off, what I would like to do is on page 1 in your student notebook, you will see that there is a link to the Jamboard. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and on page 1 of the Jamboard, using the link, please use the sticky note tool to write your name, school, organization, where you're from. I know we did that in the chat. It's a little bit redundant, but I would like you to go ahead and do that on the Jamboard. And the reason I'm having you do that on the Jamboard is because if you have not yet used Jamboard, this is a wonderful collaborative tool that you can utilize in your classroom to get kids virtually discussing, especially in this world of some of you are virtual, some of you are in person. So I'll go ahead and show you how that works. It's a very easy tool. Thank you so much, Matthew, Keith, Frank, thank you so much. And you can, if you haven't worked with this before, once you post your sticky note, you can take it and you can move it around just like I just did. So I'll go ahead and do my own here. And I utilize this tool a lot when I'm doing Zooms with my students, and they really get a kick out of it. I've even done good things on here, different ways that you can utilize this Jamboard. All right, I'm going to click back into my presentation here. Give you all another 30 seconds to go ahead and add your sticky note, please. And just like a couple of you have found, there are some other cool tools like a pen tool, eraser, that type of thing. When I use this with my students, I specifically say, only using the sticky note app, because you know how that will sometimes work with your kiddos. They like to move things around. All right, thank you everyone for doing that. So what is a MWE? So MWEE, that's what we call MWEs. Some of you are very familiar with what a MWE is. For those of you who aren't, MWE stands for Meaningful Watershed Educational Experience. So we are going to be referencing MWEs all throughout the session, so that is what it stands for. Essentially, they are activities that include learning both indoors and outdoors of your classroom, and it increases the environmental literacy and learning for everyone involved. I know when I practice these meaningful watershed educational experiences in my classroom, I learn just as much as the students sometimes, most times, about what it means to be part of our watershed and how we engage in the watershed. So MWEs are standards that are put in place by NOAA. And this piece here on this slide it breaks down the standard into 4 different pieces. So this is specifically looking at what MWEs are for students and how we can create these experiences for students. So defining an issue, finding an issue within your watershed or within your community environmentally, doing the research, completing field activities and completing those outdoor experiences, coming up with a stewardship action project that allows students to dig deeper and make a difference in their community's watershed. And then coming up with a, using that project to then do community outreach or some type of presentation or a conclusion or a research paper or a presentation to other classrooms or other teachers. So those are some different pieces of these standards when we talk about watershed. Jessica did a wonderful video back in our Summer Institute last year, which is that link right there for you later after the presentation. If you'd like to click on that and learn a little bit more in depth about MIWIs, that would be something that you are able to do using that link there. Jessica, is there any other piece I'm going to kind of refer to you that you'd want to add when we talk about MIWIs?
I just thought it would be nice if we could drop in the chat. I know many of you have done, if you could just list some examples of things you've done in your class that has been either, I mean, a lot of us do research or outdoor field activities or stewardship action projects, but just to get everybody seeing the variety of things that fit into these categories, I wondered if everyone would drop some of their ideas in the chat. Go ahead.
And for this, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share and allow you guys to put in the chat box. So Jordan said that we have macroinvertebrate water quality indexing in Plaster Creek. Wonderful. Jessica talked about how several schools create rain gardens. Keith talks about his rail project in partnership with Allegheny College's Creek Connections. We have, okay, it says M. Visser. Is it Matt? Mitch? I'm sorry. I do not know you, Mr. Visser.
All right, it's Michelle.
Or Michelle Visser, I'm sorry. So Michelle talked about haven't yet, but have been planning and want to do bird nest boxing. Awesome. David talked about invasive plant removal, stream restoration. Matthew talked about teaching BWET modules. Yes, we're going to refer to your knowledge later, Matthew, so just be prepared. You've done the exploration model and the module and the natural resource module. Wonderful. Great. Pam, the Rogue Education Project doing water quality and cleanup. Wonderful. Joseph, water quality testing and macroinvertebrates. At Coopersville, we also did macroinvertebrates and water quality testing in our watershed and our creek there. Such a cool experience. Awesome, Michelle and Joe. Yes, we're going to look at Michelle and Joe later too. We're going to ask you to share how these modules have been going, not to put you on the spot at all. All right, I'm going to give everyone another 30 seconds or so if you want to add anything else in the chat. We are adding how you might have done or practice MIWIs in your school or classroom prior to this.
Brian says native planting in the courtyard at Northern Hills Middle School and water quality indexing in the ravine behind the school. A lot of us have ravines behind our schools, so that's great.
All right, thank you everyone for sharing. And if you'd like to share, just continue to write that in the chat and we will review those in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and continue to share my screen here. So we provided you with a couple links. Now, again, everything that I am showing is in your participant notebook, so you can get to it either now or later. I'm going to take a quick second to click on both of these links and give an overview, just so you have an idea of what you're looking at when you go through them later or now. So the first one are these table of contents for these modules that we keep talking about. So Joe, Michelle, Matthew, you said you were using these modules, and these are the modules we are introducing to everyone else. So it will prompt you to make a copy, like everything else that we have linked here. And what we did is we made this nice little table of contents. I appreciate like organization and having something all in one spot, which was why we thought would be an awesome way to organize all of these modules for you. So you can simply save this link, you can save this document and have all the modules and resources at your disposal. So we talked over, I'm going to go ahead and click into this first outdoor exploration module and just give you a look at how these modules are set up. It's going to look really similar to a traditional, I would say, lesson plan per se. Give it a second to load. There we go. Where we have our objectives, we have all your materials written out there for you so you know what you will need. We have a description of a study site, so kind of giving you an idea where you could conduct these modules. We give you your background information, so all of the knowledge that you need to know so you feel prepared to teach this module to your students. And then we go ahead and we have step-by-step instructions and introduction to what this module is. We also, in light of this past year and how crazy it's been for everyone, we've also included how you might use these modules in a virtual setting. So even if you are in a virtual setting or in a hybrid situation, you still can complete these modules and you can still provide these meaningful watershed experiences for your students. So we have different, some different terminology here for you that are important. We have different discussion questions that you will have your students answer. We've included different things like goal setting. So we've really taken a lot of different ways of learning and put them into one module so you're reaching all of your learners. So that is what the module looks like. Along with the module, we've also created resources that go with the module. These are in form of a student online notebook. So it looks really similar to the participant notebook that you're using for this PD session, which was done intentionally. So you can get a feel of what your students might be looking at and might be using that coincide with the modules. Within those modules, there are different links that we included, like the Jamboard link, Quizlet links, different video links that your students can look at and follow. Again, you can use these in person or you can use these virtually. And we're going to talk later about practical tips of how to utilize these online notebooks. So we have a few other modules here that on your own you can look through and you can utilize any piece or whole part of the module, whichever fits into your curriculum and how you're providing these watershed experiences for your students. The other resource that we have here is resources from Groundswell in general. So what this is they are a whole bunch of different informational resources, like our presentations on MeWes, community partner spotlights from 2020. I provided last Summer Institute, I also provided a half-hour presentation of how to create specifically with kind of boots on the ground practical tips of how to utilize and use MeWes. We have some other lesson plans from Groundswell, which are wonderful. So if you have not, many of you have used these before. If not, please do so. They're great resources, along with some Bay backpack resources as well. So that's just an overview of what you're going to find there. And now to what you've all been waiting for is our module practice. So what we're going to have you do is we are going to, for this next 25-minute, half hour or so, we are going to have you, we're going to break you out into breakout rooms. And what you are going to do is you are going to go through your participant notebook, slides specifically 11 through 21. And you're going to put on your teacher hat, your student hat, your teacher hat, your student hat, and you're going to go through pieces of these modules to kind of get a good feel and introduce to you what this may look like for you and your students. And then with your breakout group, after you've gone through, then you are going to have some discussion questions, and then we are going to do a group share out later. So I'm just going to quickly take you through what you're going to be seeing and kind of describe, and just so we have clear expectations of what we're all going to be doing for this next little bit. So what you will do is you will click on any of the links that show up on these slides. So you're going to review the module from a teacher perspective. Again, you see the apple in the lower right-hand corner. You're going to put on your teacher hat for this. And then you're going to use the next slides to interact with the activities from the student notebook. Now, as you do these activities in your breakout rooms, you can choose to do them a few different ways. You can choose to do them independently first and then come together as a group, or you can go through them together as a group, whatever way suits your group's needs there. All right. The next slide that you will see is the student online notebook. So I'm just telling you that this is the link where the next activities came from. So you don't have to click on this link. The following slides are only a piece of this overview online notebook. So what you'll be doing with your student perspective is you will be learning about some jobs in natural resources. So you'll read the information and you'll watch the video. And we would like you to watch these videos just so you know what your students are going to be experiencing when they use this part of the notebook. So you'll watch the video, it has a nice little arrow pointing to it. You'll read the information. Then we will do a Quizlet. So I would like you to click on the Quizlet link and practice a little bit, even if it's for 1 minute or 2 minutes. I would like you to get the full experience that your students would be getting. Then you'll learn about some tools. You'll read some information. And then whenever there's a question that pops up on the screen, I would like you to answer that either as a group you can answer, or on your own. You can write it right in your slide, in your speaker notes, or you can share out with your group. You'll learn about some surveys and you'll watch a couple more videos. Then you'll answer the questions. Again, you can answer them right in the slide, in the speaker notes, or you can verbally answer them as a group, however you prefer. And then at the end, as a group, I would like you to discuss these 2 questions. And if you have some extra time before we pull you back into the big group, then you can go ahead and use the table of contents to continue to explore the different modules that we've created for you. So before we do that, are there any questions? You can put them in the chat, or you can unmute your mic and you can ask them before we break you into the breakout groups. And if you're good, just give me a thumbs up so we know we can let you guys go into your breakout rooms. All right. Any other questions? Going once, twice? Sold to Jessica to let you guys get into your groups.
Okay. You should be able, if you have any questions, you should be able to pop back out and feel free to ask. Otherwise, Kat and I will be moving around a little bit. It's 4:27 now. So we will be here until about 4:37. I'm sorry. What is it? 30 minutes, Kat? 40?
Yeah, so we'll come back at around 5, right?
Okay. Yep, that'll be about 30.
And we'll pop in too and see how things are going. If you haven't used a breakout room before, what's going to happen is Jessica's going to put you and click the button to put you in randomized groups. All of a sudden, instead of seeing 40 of us on the screen, you'll only see your group and you'll just discuss. And then us as hosts will pull you back to the full group when you're done. So that's what's going to happen. Enjoy. Have a great time. Let us know if you have any questions.
Has everyone received their invitation?
Have not yet.
Okay.
It looks like it's open to us to join. Oh, now it went away. It was
Oh, I
prompting
just
breakout.
redid it. So
There we go.
I did 5 rooms instead.
Welcome back, everyone.
Oh,
All right, I think we have everyone back now. Awesome. All right. So I hope you guys, so Jessica just put the link again to the participant notebook for any newcomers, and everyone else from your breakout groups. I hope that you have chosen your spokesperson to report out. We have 2 discussion questions that we just want to hear from each group, just pretty general. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can see those discussions. And then the plan is just to go to group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5. And if you guys could just unmute your mic and report out, that would be wonderful. Thank you for participating. I love it. All right, so for the first question is, what did your group find useful in the module activities? And then the second one is, what are some ways you could incorporate parts of the modules or all the modules into your planning? Now, this could just be based on the discussion you had as a group. You guys all had great discussions as we were popping in and out of groups. So we're going to start with group 1, and if the person who's a spokesperson can just kind of share out and to the responses of these questions, that would be great. So group 1.
That might have been us.
Yep,
Was
I
it?
think
You, yes.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Thanks. I know,
guess
maybe.
I did the typing, so I'll tell you what we shared. We liked the lengths of the videos. We thought they were an appropriate time length. We like career pathways information that we saw in the specific example. We like the format of the repeated questions after each video, nice and simple, so the students know what the expectations are for each one without having to figure that out. And then for incorporating the activities into the online notebook into our classroom, in addition to just using some of the stuff that's already made here, we thought just keeping the format, we could copy the slides, use different videos and topics, really simple. So having that tool will be helpful, especially for online learning.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. I appreciate that feedback. Wonderful. Group 2, what you got for us?
Well, group 2 are teachers. We don't listen to directions. So I'll try. We didn't talk about who the leader was. So
That's okay.
Very similar to what group 1, I think it was David, talked about. We felt the videos were very good, little short snippets one of the things we thought was the whole document that we have in the modules to us seemed overwhelming, right? And we talked about how Google Slides, you can take pieces of that and maybe incorporate, copy your own copy, a slide or two, and even feed that out digitally to the kids. Whether you're at school, they could go in Google Classroom, or remote students, that you'd have those at the tip of your finger. They were very helpful and they were fun.
Good. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. Awesome. All right, group 3.
I can share. So we talked about a lot of different stuff. We also talked about how chunking the online student notebooks would be beneficial. And that's definitely something I did when I taught those modules, the outdoor, well, specifically with the natural resources, but also the outdoor exploration, chunking like the vocab activity separate from the actual exploration outside. So that's definitely something we talked about. Another thing we talked about too is just, the challenge of when you teach something virtually, there are so many distractions on the computer. So the app Edpuzzle was brought up because it's a learning platform that allows teachers to create a module that is all self-contained. So there are just less opportunities for students to, get distracted by other things on their computer. If like they go to YouTube, right? Especially for the younger students, there are all the videos on the side that look appealing. But if you're using Edpuzzle, you can build everything within the assignment. So you could, take some of the stuff out of the online notebook and create an Edpuzzle version that might help students focus a little bit better. We also talked about with the Jamboard, if you're introducing the Jamboard for the first time, it's good to allow students time to just play around with the features before you have them do anything serious or focused on it. So you just have better success when you actually have them do the work on Jamboard. And then we also talked too a lot about the watershed questions in the natural resource tools segment of the online notebook. And how, like, I know for my class, I had to do a lot of coaching around that because the videos don't explicitly explain how the survey can be used to assess watershed health. So you might need to support your students in order to get them to apply that or make that connection to watersheds. So that is definitely something I know when I taught, I had to coach more on and give more support on. So those are some of the things we talked about. I don't know if there was anything I missed.
No, that was great, Matthew. I was just going to chime in that I just loved the like the bird censusing because I do a biodiversity lab. It's really simple. Students just put down a transect. They use like a rope that's measured out a certain distance, or if they don't have rope, I just tell them to count a certain number of toilet paper rolls, and they just make a little, quadrat basically, or they do a transect and then they count species they can find that are plants. But I think it'd be so cool to do with animals as well. And then like Matt was talking about, looking and asking his students to have conversations about like, what does the biodiversity of birds indicate about watershed health? And I was like, if you're doing that with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, like they're going to be full-blown ecologists by the time they make it to AP environmental science in 11th and 12th grade. So having conversations with students about what the censusing of a bird population or just the bird community of an area indicates about like watershed health, that would be so cool. That'd be amazing because like I said, 11th and 12th graders struggle with thinking like that. And so if they're already doing that in middle school, it would just be awesome by the time they take an environmental science class in high school.
Yeah, Jordan, with my students, I start them off because we measure nutrient modeling in the streams we study. And I lead them with the story of how a leaf becomes a bird and follow up the food webs in the aquatic systems into how we can then use the invertebrates to then how they help in certain bird species and whatnot. And they you cover the whole energy transfer 10% rule all the way up into, so it blows their mind. They're like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, yeah, just trace your carbon.
That's amazing. And then next you can add in how DDT that was phased out decades ago also makes it from sediments up to an eagle. So
That's funny, Jordan. I actually was quoting Joni Mitchell's song Yellow Taxi Cab today in class.
Farmer, put away the DDT now. Yep. That's amazing. That's awesome. I love to hear that.
Oh, I love all these connections. Thank you everyone for sharing. I appreciate that. Thank you, Matthew, Jordan, Keith. Wonderful. Let's see our next group. Let's see, Matthew, you were group 3, right? So round of group 4. Perfect. Group
4. And
Perfect.
I think we win for like the most diverse group. We were 2nd through 9th grade with also lesson plan designers and watershed experts. And so we had a lot of interesting perspectives. First of all, we love the birds. Microorganisms are great and all of that, but it was so fun to just kind of see bringing in different, animals as well. And then also, we really liked the flexibility of, even though it says 1, 2, 3, 4, that you can go through the modules at different paces. As a 2nd grade teacher, I see I could do a lot more whole group things and use these videos and class discussions. Whereas, your 4th grade, maybe more partner work, and your 9th grade, you can do these things independently. So kudos to that. That was awesome. And then the technology piece is great, that Google Slides, we can post it on Classroom, but also my little guys, we're going to take our composition books out and I can print out some questions. We can glue them in. There's still a lot of resources there and I don't have to depend on the technology to do those same things. And did I mention birds? We were very excited about birds.
Awesome. Thank you for that feedback, Kate. That's great to hear. And yes, the birds. I love it. Yes. Thank you, Frank, for adding in those birds. Like I said, Frank's your man, guys. Frank's your man.
I'm gonna infiltrate this macroinvertebrate centered groundswell group. We're gonna
No.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, group 4. Group 5, ending with you guys. What do you have to say about all of this?
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'll speak for group 5. I think a lot of what we discussed was already mentioned. So we also just really liked the layout, the Google slide presentation, super adaptable to virtual or in person. And we liked that everything was just in one place. You click through and there's no resource hunting. You don't have to go on a scavenger hunt to find everything you need to do the activity. We liked the pacing, how it was, again, everybody has mentioned this, I think, a few minutes with this. You answer some questions. The diversity of the activities keeps the students engaged and also addresses our students who learn in lots of different ways. So we had also, I'm a kindergarten teacher, so we talked about how kindergartners can still do this type of work also. Our 5-year-olds can go out in their yards with their iPads and take pictures of the wildlife and the plant life in their backyards, and we can do that in our schoolyards as well. And we really loved the camera idea for our younger students to be able to see oh, something's actually happening when I'm not right there to observe it and look at it. What's going on in the garden when we're not there? But we also talked about the barriers with price and possible vandalism that was brought up. So we'd hope that nobody would do that, right? But let's see here. I think that covers most of it. I also wanted to mention, I think it was Matthew who talked about the how the YouTube link can get very distracting. And I have hyperlinked YouTube videos right into a Google slide presentation so that they can watch it right on the slide and it plays for them right there. That way it doesn't take them to open another tab and then there's all the YouTube videos. So there's just another idea. If group 5 has anything else to bring up that I didn't mention, feel free to pipe in.
Good job, Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you, Group 5. Thank you, Stephanie. That's a great tip too about the hyperlink with the YouTube. Like I know my 6th graders too. They're like, oh, what's this stuff over here? And so just by inputting those videos, it's huge. So thank you for that. All right, there have been so many good practical tips already shared. I'm going to go ahead and just share a few more. So thank you guys all for being willing to share out, especially your tips and tricks. That is what makes this so awesome. So a few more tips and tricks. And again, this is also in your participant notebook, so you can feel free to take notes and or reference this later. So when using these modules, you can use this as a whole independent unit on watershed and on environmental or ecology in general, or you can incorporate them like some of you were talking about in your existing curriculum as just a resource, a reference, or using pieces and parts. It doesn't have to be this big overwhelming thing. You can take what you like and leave what you want to use later or what you don't like. That's why we've made them like they are with the Google Slides and with the types of things that we've included. So wonderful with that. Student choice. We know that student choice is great for engaging and great for making the students really be held accountable for the work that they're doing. And so by using these modules and just MeWes in general, really allow student choice and allow students to choose what they research and what they present, if we remember when we talked about MeWes in the beginning of the presentation. Routines and procedures. I know, Matthew, I'm going to pick on you because I know you talked about this, about simple things just like Jamboard and teaching your kids how to use some of these different tools prior to just letting them go for it. And I know that looks different from kindergarten, Stephanie, all the way up to Keith, you know, with your 6th graders, and all the way up, Jordan, with your high schoolers. But using those routines and making those routines and procedures, even if it is like how to use your online student notebook, simple things like that. Group roles is another wonderful way that I've incorporated routines and procedures, allowing each student to have a chance to do a certain role, you know, the material collector or the spokesperson or the timekeeper. Those are different group roles you can use when you are practicing MeWes in your classroom. And the last thing is customization. As you guys all have talked about, you can take these modules, you can take different parts of MeWes, and you can customize them to what works best in your classroom. This is not a one shoe fits all situation. This is just how do we get our kids to learn about watershed, understand that watershed is important, and like you guys talked about, that watershed and all the different pieces connect, and they all come back to water and how that supports a community or a certain species or biome. So we appreciate all the different tips and tricks as well from all of you. If you want to learn more about MeWes here, I've linked the presentation I did last year for the Summer Institute. And now we want to hear more from all of you. So we know that most of the time, students learn best from other students. And so we kind of want to model that here. And just like Matthew and Jordan and Keith and Kate, Stephanie, you guys all talked and gave us some tips and tricks that you have found useful. So we'd like to hear some more from you. You can either throw your ideas, connections, or questions in the chat, or just simply hit unmute. And we would love to hear specifically also from those who have already started using these modules in your classroom. How's it going? What do you have to offer to the greater good? We'd love to hear it.
I guess I can start, Kat. I like the Jamboard. So we're out in the stream every Tuesday, and then we collect all of our data. And then every Wednesday is our Riparian Wednesday, where it's data analysis of all our macroinvertebrates. And so with the Jamboard, I have a slide for each one of the 5 attributes we measure. So, and the question is, you know, so why do you think the Sevidrana is heterotrophic? Why is it a a fall winter shredder stream system, whatnot. So they can start throwing up their little sticky notes, and it just leads to discussion, because far too often, especially in middle school level, the students, they don't think they can be scientists because they don't have the fancy, expensive degrees and whatnot. But so it allows them a little bit feel less vulnerable and still be able to put in some input, and then it validates what they're saying when we bring it into discussion. I also have my students keep a journal of what our results are, because we compile our September, October, November results with our April and May results for our research report that we write up at the end of the year for all of our research partners and Eagle and such. And so it's, again, these resources are another way, again, because they're so plastic and malleable, where whatever your research project may be, you can adjust it to fit in what you want it to be. And again, you don't need to use all of it, but find what works, change it to fit how you need it to fit. And this coming from a guy who's been doing the same research the past 20 years, which, just in the past couple of years got involved with Groundswell, and I can easily adapt what I've been doing to fit in with this and make this fit into what I've been doing. So again, the plasticity of this is, it's cooler than the feeding plasticity of the Scud. It's awesome. It's good. So good work, Kat, putting it together.
Oh, it took a whole team, but thank you, Keith. I appreciate, I think we all appreciate the additional tips, like the journaling, and then how you use the Jamboard and your scheduling. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Keith, I have to ask, how do you get out and stream every Tuesday? That's incredible. Do you just that close, or are you a middle school science teacher?
Yep. So they built our school right next to my study sites. Wasn't the intent. Back when Allendale was on Lake Michigan Drive, I would bus my students to our field work station every hour. But before we eat, what's that?
Using the Rapid?
No, our school buses.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So we're a tiny charter, so we don't have school buses.
No, so it was a matter, but I tell you, you can just bring the stream into your classroom too. Right. Just a little extra work of just pulling some samples, but I got curriculum for you to pull that stuff too. But no, it's so, like, even before I had the stream right here on campus, I had my students trained, so they could do their nitrate test and DO test in their sleep. They could identify their macroinvertebrates, at least to get some sort of idea of what order they are. And then they get to family again in their sleep. Okay. Oh, sweet, hairy armpits, looks like a roach. Cool. We got a stonefly, so they have it. So once we get in and it's a well-oiled machine, we would get a whole field study done in under 20 minutes. So we have time to bus in and bus out. And now I added more study sites now that we're on campus, and I still keep them on that 20-minute regiment because I have to accommodate for walking our whole length of our campus and then back, and it just keeps them going. So
that's so cool.
I've seen that with other teachers too. The more that you do it, like the more like the kids get used to their routine and the procedures, they know exactly what to do. Tom Gibson at the museum school was the same way. I would go to get out on the creek with him, and those kids got off the bus and they knew exactly what they were doing. They were in the creek, they were out of the creek. So sometimes even though it sounds like a lot, to that repetition of they just know what to do after practicing a lot, which is great. Jordan, I thought you were walkable from your site.
Hey, maybe if I get a well-oiled machine, we're walkable, but
maybe not during a 1-hour class period. Yeah.
I mean, no, we probably could. I think I just overestimate, the amount of time it takes to get those routines down. I think if we were to walk to Veterans Memorial Park, the trick is that it would be a longer walk if we couldn't cut through like backyards or something, because we'd have to go out to Eastern, down. I don't need to bore people with directions, but like I think it's like a 15-minute-ish, and so that's about 30 minutes of walking. But yeah, if they really knew what they were doing, and we just did some water quality testing in the classroom with our vernier probes, just, you know, using samples they brought in, like Keith said, bring the stream to the kids. Or, well, I had them go get it. They're high schoolers, so they can drive. So I said, you know, go bring in the stream. But anyway, all that to say, I think we probably could do that if we get a well-oiled sampling machine going.
Wonderful. And yeah, Jordan, and definitely you have many resources. So reach out, you know, Keith or myself or whoever. We can definitely provide more resources and some help to get that well-oiled machine for you. Other tips and tricks. So awesome. I just want to go ahead and Pam put in the chat. I think it would be fun and help make a community connection for online students if at a certain time of day you had a live cam on a bird feeder at the school. You could have them practice doing a survey, which was mentioned as a tool. She's done something similar with in-school students where they had 2 feeders with different foods. It was amazing how quickly they learned different birds, including their calls. That's just a wonderful idea. Thank you so much, Pam. To be mindful of your time, it is 5:30, so unfortunately we do have to wrap this up so you guys can get on with your wonderful nights. But please, utilize us, reach out to us, and you can always revert back. This will be on YouTube, correct, Jessica? Perfect. So if you need to refer back to the PD at all, please do that. Get your sketchies, all that good stuff. But again, we can use each other as a resource, and I hope you can use these online resources to create MeWes for your students. So thank you all for joining us, guys.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you, Kat.
See you all. See you all. See you, Jessica.
Yes, I'll have a follow-up email. So with
Thanks, everyone.
Golden.
Thanks for listening. Thank you for engaging.